Hello and welcome to Inside the Mind. I'm Aaron Ulmer, and on this week's episode, we have a real treat for you all. We had the opportunity to sit down with Carrie Jackson-Cheadle. She is a certified mental performance consultant based out of Northern California, and Carrie has worked with athletes and performers of all ages at every level, from recreational athletes to elite and professional athletes competing at the national and international levels. She is the author of the book On Top of Your Game, as well as a co-author of another, Rebound. She is the co-creator of the Level Up Mastermind program, which was designed to help sports psychology professionals grow their business and accomplish their personal and professional goals. In addition to specializing in working with injured athletes, she is also one of the foremost experts specializing in mental skills training for athletes and exercisers with type 1 and type 2 diabetes. We are more than excited to have Carrie in our program here at Holy Names University and look forward to her work that is to be continued. Like always, give us a like and subscribe to our channel so you don't miss out on any new content. With that being said, let's take a dive inside the mind of Carrie Jackson-Cheadle. Start off these web series, we like to give you the opportunity to kind of define and give us your personal definition of what sport and performance psychology is and kind of why it is important for athletes and performers.
Oh, that's a great question. So for me, sport and performance psychology is both sort of the study of and understanding the different psychological constructs that are at play with optimal performance. For me, when I talk to my athletes about it, I'll talk about it a little different. So it's about, we're just masters sometimes at getting in our own way. And we have all kinds of doubts and self-beliefs and old scripts running through our minds that sort of hold us back from being able to really perform to our potential. And there's a lot of different things that will come into play with that, whether it's there's things that are happening in the body that might get in the way, like we might have too much activation in the body, or there might be too much activation in the mind that's going to get in the way. So a big part of my job is helping to identify what some of those obstacles are and the ways that we might end up sabotaging ourselves and help bring that to light, shed some light on that, and then give some tools to be able to manage that, either the feelings of performance anxiety or manage like being able to boost confidence in order to help an athlete accomplish their goals or a performer accomplish their goals.
A lot of people from the outside looking in see it as a very short-term thing. When they think of kind of what you guys do in your field, it's, oh, someone has a problem, let me go to them and immediately fix that. But kind of how you're explaining is the exact opposite of that.
Yeah, it's really interesting. It's still seen as like a maybe a short term, like I have this problem, so help me fix this problem, and then we're good. But really, I mean, some of my athletes that I've worked with and my performers, I've worked with them for years, and part of the reason for that is there's always going to be ongoing challenges that you need to figure out a way to bounce back from. And so a lot of the work that I do has to do with helping athletes build those skills of resilience, and having support is a huge part of that. So for me, although there are some times where somebody might just need a short-term sort of relationship to be able to get some really specific skills to accomplish a really specific objective. But for other people, it's more having this mental support, just like you would have your coaches, right? You don't have your coach for only 6 weeks and then you're good for the rest of the season, right? Like you've got your coach all the time. So it's similar to that, where there's a set of eyes and someone holding that space for the mental game to help support you with that piece.
So rewinding the tapes, looking back a little bit, what got you initially interested in the field of psychology in general?
For psychology, I always knew I wanted to work with human behavior and that I wanted to serve people in that way. I wasn't quite sure what it would look like. I thought it was going to be in the clinical realm, and that I studied psychology in my undergraduate years thinking I was going to be a therapist. And then when I graduated, I realized I don't think that was quite it, that the model that I was learning at that time didn't really fit the ways that I wanted to work with people, because I came from education. So I did a lot of outdoor leadership. It was always very, we're learning through doing and having these experiences, and the models I was being taught in psychology at that time. And this was before sort of the positive psychology movement. It just wasn't speaking to me in the way that I thought. And so then a few years, so I didn't know what to do, because I literally made this realization as I crossed the stage to get my diploma. I was like, I don't think I'm supposed to do this. And so then I was like, well, what do I do now? And so I ended up moving to Tahoe, and lived in South Lake Tahoe. And it was through my own sport experiences of snowboarding and rock climbing that I realized some of the psychology behind it. And then by accident, ended up discovering sports psychology. I didn't even know it existed until my mom handed me a brochure for a program, a graduate program, and said, hey, I thought you might be interested in this. And I was like, what is this? This is amazing. So I always knew I wanted to work with people and with human behavior. And I loved studying the brain, but I had no idea it would be working in the field of sport and performance psychology.
And then years later, you're now an author of 2 books, Rebound and On Top of Your Game. So kind of what was the inspiration behind both of those pieces?
The first book, On Top of Your Game, my inspiration for that was I had worked with a string of athletes that were all experiencing intense performance anxiety to the point where they were questioning whether or not they wanted to continue in their sport. And these were people that loved their sport. And so then we worked together, and some of them came back to have their best season ever. And broke my heart to think about people out there that loved their sport, but were thinking about quitting because they just didn't have the tools to be able to manage the anxiety that they had in performing under pressure. And so I was like, all right, I got to write a book about this. And so, that first book was just a lot of the work that I did with them to help them thrive and be able to perform to their potential. And then Rebound came because I also specialize in working with athletes coming back from injury. And so being an injured athlete myself, and then also having so much experience working with injured athletes, seeing the challenges that they went through during that time period, and realizing there was so much support out there for rehabbing physically, but there was not a lot of support out there for athletes on recovering mentally and sort of navigating the mental aspects of recovery. And so I saw a huge gap and a huge need for that sort of applied book for the athlete, for psychology of injury and coming back. And so I was like, that one was really like, I have to write this book.
So it's like the more and more I kind of research and dabble into this field and talk to people who are actually in the industry, it seems as if book writing is not essential, but it seems like it's a very big tool that has helped people push their careers forward. So just kind of from your own personal experience, what has been the benefit of writing a book rather than having seminars or web series and getting that same message out?
Yeah, that's a great question. For me, it was definitely always it was both a personal and professional goal. So I knew that I had a book in me because I love to write. So I knew at some point I wanted to write a book. I wasn't sure if I would write 2. Now I want to write more. So, but the professional reason is it does, when you have when you publish a book, it establishes your expertise in a field. And so once I did that, it opened up more opportunities for me to gain exposure in the media, because a lot of times people like to interview an expert, and oftentimes they like that expert to have a book title after their name. So I knew that it would be a good move for me professionally to do that, but I also very much personally just I really enjoy that process of writing a book.
Definitely. I'm gonna have to read one of those one day. So
they're good. I hear they're good.
I'm really excited to get to read that one. So kind of, we were just mentioned kind of different avenues. We have webinars, books, and all of that. The Injured Athletes Club.
Yes.
Podcast created by you also. So can you just walk us through what it is and how you got started with that project?
Yeah, so my co-author, Cindy Kuzma, and we also are co-hosts of the Injured Athletes Club, and we just saw, it was another gap that we saw where there weren't really any podcasts out there where they highlighted athletes talking about their injury experience, and in particular talking about the mental emotional challenges of the injury experience. And so we we ended up interviewing quite a few athletes for the book. And so as we were, in the beginning process of writing the book, we were like, you know what, we should think about doing a podcast. Like, there's so many amazing stories out there, just incredible stories. And I found that a lot of times athletes like to hear other athletes talking about their injury experiences and how they came back and what their challenges were and what advice they had. And so we decided, you know what, these stories are great in the book, but how else could we share some of these stories? So now we just wrapped up our third season of the podcast, and I see it continuing into the foreseeable future. Yeah, it's really fun to do.
So, I mean, it looks like you have tons on your plate, coming from writing books, podcasts, teaching.
Yeah.
Also, running a whole private practice.
Yes.
Currently operating your own private practice as a certified mental performance consultant. Mm-hmm. So, what is your purpose or mission, and how do you address that with your clients on a daily basis?
Yeah. For me, my mission is I want to be able to, sometimes the way I think about it is like, I want people to feel like they are the superhero of their own life story, and really be able to accomplish things that they never thought were possible for them. And I think the other part of my mission too is to help people recognize the ways that they aren't giving themselves credit. Because I think a lot of people are very, very hard on themselves and don't give themselves enough credit, and just highlight the ways that we, help athletes be honest with themselves in the ways that they contribute to their own, to holding themselves back. And we all do it. I do it. I still have to challenge myself on these things. And sometimes it really takes that outside perspective, and that, having your own coach or having your, somebody that can help you see things that you might not be able to see because you're too close to it, and then give you the tools to be able to do something about it. Like, so that, I mean, it's both of those pieces for me. It's helping really build self-awareness, and in a way that's, helping athletes come from a place of curiosity versus judgment of themselves and how they work. So helping them understand how they operate, and then giving them some tools to be able to highlight their strengths and maybe work on some of their challenges. So I just sort of knew I was put on this earth to help as many people as I could. And this is the way that I have ended up doing it. So I really love seeing my athletes and performers take the skills that we learn and apply it to other areas of their life as well.
Definitely. I mean, it's huge, and it's very important that these athletes are even exposed to this, because I mean, as I can personally say, a couple of years ago, being an undergrad collegiate athlete, you don't even know about these things. Yeah. And I think it's really important for all of us, the up and coming practitioners and students, as well as you guys, to get that word out to as many people as possible, that it's not even essentially getting help. Like, so a lot of people think when they go to a sports psychologist or something, it's because they need help, when in reality, it's something that's a tool that can build you from where you are to the next level.
Exactly. Yep. Yeah.
So kind of looking ahead now, what does your future look like? And is there anything that you want to specifically accomplish when you're all said and done?
I'm in a process of sort of rethinking my business right now and what I want that to look like in this second phase. So I've been doing it for a while and wanting to kind of push myself out of my comfort zone a little bit. So I am launching a membership site called Rebound Lifestyle. So Rebound Lifestyle is the name of the final chapter in my book, Rebound, where we talk about like, how can you apply these skills to different aspects of your life and your performance outside of being injured. And so, once COVID hit, I had a bunch of people asking me for interviews around the tools in the book, because they realized, oh my gosh, this is written for injured athletes, but it all applies to what we're going through right now and sort of the struggles and how do you have resilience during this difficult time. And it got my wheels turning. And so that's the big project that I'm working on now, is starting to think about launching that membership site, and then maybe thinking about some other online group coaching opportunities. It's funny how, for all of the challenges COVID presented, it also, I think, forced me to think outside the box and get creative. And I think some really amazing things are going to come from it. So that's my big thing right now, is thinking about how do I serve more people than I have been? How do I get to a bigger scale?
Definitely. Well, I can say I look forward to it. I'm sure everyone else can look forward to it, and we'll definitely get word out whenever that comes.
Yeah.
But to wrap up, I just want to give you the opportunity to give any advice that you have for any future practitioners, any students who are interested in the field of sport and performance psychology.
Yeah, I would say, like, if this is something that's interesting to you and you're kind of contemplating, do I want to continue my education, and is this a career path I would want to follow? Talk to as many people as you can. Like, reach out to people that are doing it, and doing it in different ways, so you can see what are all the different options out there that you could do within this field, whether it's working with the military, or it's doing clinical work and being a sports psychologist, or if it's certified mental performance consultant, like, and working, exclusively on performance enhancement. Like, talk to a lot of different people to see what does that look like, and is this something that I would be interested in? And just don't hesitate to reach out and ask people questions, because oftentimes, people are willing to and want to help people figure out what their path is. So definitely, if you're thinking about it, find someone that's doing it and interview them about it.
Or come to the Applied Sport and Performance Psychology YouTube page and just watch all of our Inside the Mind episodes.
Exactly.
All your answers right there. But Carrie, I just want to say thank you for taking the time to join us here on this episode of Inside the Mind. I really appreciate you taking the time to do this, and we look forward to seeing you and speaking to you soon.
Sounds good. Thanks for having me.